Welcome to the American Experiment Radio. I'm here with my co-host Jonathan Hanna, and we have our guest for today, Alec Woodruff. Alec Woodruff is a student activist, and he works with YAL, Young Americans for Liberty, as one of the state chairs from New York. Welcome to the show, Alec.
Happy to be here.
So, Alec, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became interested in politics and liberty?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I'm a student. I'm currently working towards my degree in adolescent education with the hopes of teaching civics or history at the high school level. Besides that, getting a little bit more personal, I am, of course, an activist and I fight for liberty in some shape or form pretty much on a daily basis, whether that be through having these conversations about why government overreach is so bad or why liberty is such a good thing, or just doing real activism work with whether it be through Young Americans for Liberty or some of these other organizations that I volunteer for and help make real change. Um, as far as why I got interested in politics, it really started in the seventh grade when my social studies teacher was talking about the 2016 election and brought up to us like, hey, like, of course, like right now you're like 12 or 13, but if you were of age and you could vote, who would you vote for? Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton? And of course, me being 12 or 13, and like the rest of my classmates, I had no idea. So that day I went home and asked my mom, hey, who are you voting for? She told me she was a Republican, and that pretty much was that. I jumped down this political rabbit hole that I don't think I've ever come out of. And I really, at that point, I was already kind of figuring out that I really liked history. But being able to take on these strong opinions about how I felt that the world ought to be um, really inspired me not only to start thinking for myself, but really just be like, oh my goodness, to take on these strong opinions, but really just got me down this rabbit hole. That is the reason I'm sitting here today. Uh, and I don't think I would change anything. Having this passion and this drive to make this country and this world a better place is, I am very convinced that it is my purpose here on earth. And to take back the freedoms that my generation never knew existed. Definitely in this post 9/11 era. Granted, I was born in 2003. Some of these freedoms that were taken from us by people my age have no idea were even taken from us. And if it weren't for going down this path, this libertarian anarchist ideology that I have, I don't think I would have asked these questions and stuck my nose out to see, like, hey, what's going on in the world, and like how has government really ripped apart our lives for generations. It's criminal, to put it lightly, but I guess that also answers the question of how I got into liberty, is really just starting to ask these questions.
Right.
So I'm assuming that you're not a Republican anymore. So
Yeah, I definitely I changed course a couple of years ago, and now here I am.
So, like, what was the pivotal moment that led you to join Young Americans for Liberty? You said your parents. You've clearly been involved in politics for quite a while, even at a young age, which is very impressive. It's actually refreshing and very admirable to see somebody your age so passionate about politics. It gives us a little bit more hope for the future. Uh, yeah, what was it about YAL that drew you to them exactly? Because there's a lot of paths you can take out here, fighting for liberty and fight for what you believe in politics. But what was it about Young Americans for Liberty specifically that led you to them?
Well, I feel like it starts a lot with like how I got into the liberty movement to begin with, which led me to discover Yao just through scrolling on Instagram. Um, like it started me getting into libertarianism started with me watching this random Austin Peterson interview and hearing the word libertarianism for the first time and having no idea what that meant. It's an interview on Reason. I'm sure you can find it, but having no idea what that meant, I was so curious, and I heard like what Austin believed in and what libertarians stood for, and I was like, wow, it's something that I feel like if I looked a little bit more into, I could probably get behind. Like these are ideas that I think I already support to an extent, and some of the things that he was saying about taxes and abolishing the IRS, I really didn't know about what that meant yet, but with a little bit of research, I was like, wow, okay. And of course, with watching the 2016 Libertarian presidential nomination convention and seeing Gary Johnson on stage about like, oh, people should be required to have driver's licenses, and me being dumbfounded at one side of the room cheering and holding up campaign signs while the other side of the room was like booing him. I was like, what is going on here? This is crazy. Why would people need driver's licenses? Like, this is questions that I had never asked myself before. And it led me to getting on Instagram and creating an account and sort of like posting these it was a trend, like still is today, but the idea of having like this glitch image sort of thing and having the black bars with text over the people's eyes and trying to make a political statement with that. I kind of ran with that trend and made a page out of it. And it was relatively successful. I had a couple of hundred of followers, but really like, I just found YAL through that. Funny enough, the national page actually followed my own page one day, and I clicked on it and I was like, huh, these guys seem pretty cool. And when it came time for me looking at the colleges and eventually settling on the university that I come to today, I saw, looking just through the clubs and seeing like, oh, what I might be interested in. And I saw that there was a Young Americans for Liberty chapter here at the school. And I was like, wow, finally, I could find my community. Because being in high school at the time and discovering libertarianism and having nobody around me who thought the way that I thought, it was isolating at best. And I mean, like having, like the moment it really hit me was when my high school civics teacher, who teaches AP US government, walked up to me and asked me what my perspective was on things, because he had no idea what libertarianism was about. And when that came across like my mind, I was like, wow, okay, so I really am alone. But anyway, so I was rejoiced that that there was finally this community that of people that I knew thought like me, and I had all these like crazy ideas in my head that I'll finally be able to meet all these people and finally make some friends that were driven like I was, only to figure out that when I finally came to the university, the chapter was on borderline of being disbanded because all of the leadership and any of the members who had been involved either graduated or lost interest. So with that, I thought about it for a couple of days, what I wanted to do, and I finally came to this realization that, you know what, I have this opportunity in front of me to become a leader, and this is something I've never done before, but I'm going to give it a shot. And here I am now, almost a year and a half later, like over a year and a half at this point. I've been working with YAL, and now I'm state chair, and it's been a wild and crazy ride. But, you know, YAL has given me a lot and taught me a lot, and it's been a great journey so far.
Also, shout out to Austin Peterson. Love that guy.
Yes.
And
yes.
Going to the next question that I have for you, as the state chair for New York, which is a blue state, what have been some of your most memorable achievements so far with Young Americans for Liberty?
So, and I mean, you kind of make my point that I'm going to go into with this a little bit for me, being a blue state and all. I really haven't got much to talk about personally being a state chair. There's plenty of great work that my colleagues have done, testifying for real constitutional carry in Florida, for example, overturning these pepper spray and mask and vaccine mandate at their universities. It's incredible stuff that they're doing. But I'm really only getting into this role now. I just got hired on last December, and I mean, like I said, it's been a crazy ride, and I think only just now I'm starting to really get a hang of what my role here is, and being the one of the top Liberty youth voices in this state. And I mean, of course, it's rough in New York. Like you said before, New York is a very blue state. And when I first came on, it was the network that we had built was kind of in shambles. People weren't answering their phone. People forgot what YAL was. So really, over these past couple of months, it's really been me trying to identify, like, hey, who's still here? Who still wants to be on the right side of history and be in this fight for real change for liberty and like take our freedoms back? I mean, of course, like an achievement of mine that I talk about all the time, not me being state chair, but chapter president, is overturning the pepper spray ban at my own university almost single-handedly. And it was such a defining moment for me as a leader, and I hope a defining moment for this college, as to stand as an example where a student with no faculty assistance and no going to the student government and begging somebody to give me an answer. This was purely me going directly to the university president and speaking our minds and making the case that for a school that has a 3-to-2 women to men ratio and has a very prominent Greek life and party until 3-4 o'clock in the morning style of energy here, should not have a ban on pepper spray. I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense. Of course, I mean, I have to give credit where credit is due. The SRC Student Rights Campaign team of YAL, it's JP Kirby and Daniel Gonzalez and Linda Barr. They're such incredible people, and I am honored to call them mentors, because they helped me in the chapter every step of the way, taking on that fight. But yeah, that was really just a notable achievement of mine. I kind of went off a little bit on a tangent there, but yeah.
Well, don't worry.
Oh no, but can you? I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan. Finish your thought.
I was going to say you probably haven't had a chance to do a lot of work on the road and work on a lot of issues because you're so young. But don't worry, soon you're going to be so overloaded with work, you're not even going to be able to breathe, and you're just going to say, "Please, just give me like a week." Or 2 weeks.
I think I might be there being a full-time student and trying to balance all this stuff already, but I can't wait to see what the future holds. That's for sure.
So with the pepper spray ban, what was like the biggest hurdle you had? Like you said, you had a lot of help with SRC, but what were the biggest hurdles within the school? I feel like I've been part of the Greek, like I've also been part of student government, and whenever we had an issue like this, we always like favored our students or like helped them out. Like, what do you think that was missing from your experience? Or like you did say it was missing a bit, but what were like some of your biggest hurdles while doing this?
So a big thing for me was, and something that was an obstacle I didn't realize was even in front of me, was, and I tell this to chapter presidents now all the time, is you can never assume that the top guy is the one with all of the power and that could actually make the change that you want to see. In my university's case, the university president didn't actually have the authority to change the weapons policy. He of course could bless it and say like, okay, well, this is a change that I personally want to see, but it was up to what SUNY likes to call the college council, and there's a council at every single SUNY school that comes together a couple of times throughout the semester and votes on issues like this. So it was really the council that had the ultimate authority. So I didn't realize that they were even in the picture. So in the first couple of months of me doing this and harassing the university president and secretary and with constant emails being like, hey, can you please tell the president that this is an issue that we're concerned about? We have hundreds of petition signatures. We want to get this done. How can we make this happen? And it wasn't until months and waiting for responses and going back and forth endlessly in emails and going up to their office, it's finally like, oh, well, the college council needs to vote on this, so you need to go to one of their meetings and present the issue first off, and then wait for another semester, and then finally get a vote on the issue. So that was really the biggest hurdle. And a lot of these, I see, at least in my experience, watching my colleagues take on these fights, you're able to get these things done at other universities within a couple of weeks if you have enough support from the student body, because it is the president that's in charge ultimately. But in the case of SUNY, I had that one more obstacle I had to jump, which turned what could have been a February to March sort of fight, because we originally started this in February 22, to a drawn out process that didn't actually conclude until September of 22, which was the following semester. And at that point, a lot of the people in my chapter who had helped me out originally, especially my vice president, had graduated. So they weren't even able to be there to see the end result, which was kind of a shame. But yeah.
Well, it sounds like you got a tough fight up there in New York. I I mean, with your role as state chair, what work do you have there that you didn't really expect? What threw you off guard? I knew you were probably expecting the petitioning, the recruiting, having to make a lot of calls. You had to rebuild your network. You said that's a lot of work. That's you get big props for that because that's a lot of boots on the ground work. Um, what was something that maybe threw you off a little bit about that state chair job? What was something that maybe was a little bit more difficult than you thought it would be otherwise?
Really, it's like, I mean, I feel like it's getting people to answer the phone first and foremost. They see a random 516 number and they're like, hey, I'm just going to ignore this. Probably a telemarketer. Anyway,
Yeah.
uh, really getting people to answer their phone first and foremost, but not to mention that, like, I didn't expect coming on to this job having to take on the responsibility of being the rebuilder. I kind of was thinking like, all right, well, I'm the successor to the last guy who was in my position, so I'm just going to continue on and do the best that I can and try and expand the network. But you can't really expand when constantly week after week you're trying to audit the network and be like, all right, well, we're gonna have to remove these people because they're not interested, and these people graduated, so they're tired of YAL and they don't want to get spammed by calls or spammed by me, whatever. So really, that was the biggest challenge that I'm still overcoming now. But we're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely.
Okay, so yeah, I'll take the next question. So we know in August, like August 10th, Young Americans for Liberty is having their Revolution conference. So what can the attendees expect from this event?
So for Revolution, and I guess I could speak from experience because I was at Revolution last year. I can't really confirm much as far as what speaker is going to be there or what exactly is going to go on because there's only so much that I know. But as weeks go on, I'm sure we will be confirming more and more speakers and that sort of thing. But what I can tell you is that it's going to be a fantastic time. You're going to hear from great speakers like Spike Cohen, like Brendan Herrera, like all of these liberty-minded folks that you probably follow on Twitter or Instagram already, and you listen to what they have to say all the time. You're going to get taught the real nature of politics and this confrontational model that Young Americans for Liberty utilizes to make real change, and getting taught about grassroots activism and fighting against your local politicians to make real change in your county and your local legislator or whatever it is. If you are a ideological person and you're a liberty-minded person, I should say, doesn't matter where you are in the ideological spectrum and what label you throw on your head, but especially if you're a young person and you're looking to find community and you're looking to find people who are as liberty-minded as you and care about this cause, then Revolution is a conference not to miss. While I was getting trained to be state chair, the current vice president of campus, Daniel Taylor, made this point that I don't think that I'll ever forget, and that for political activists, for them to be effective, they need two things. They need passion, that drive to keep on moving forward in the face of adversity to make this real change. But secondly, they need community, and they need people around them to support them and feel like you're not alone here. We're all pushing forward, in this case, against the state or whatever obstacle we're trying to overcome. And YAL can provide that to you. Revolution can provide that to you. And you can meet people from all over the country. And really, you're just allowed to just create your own community and make lifelong friends and colleagues who will support you throughout whatever you want to do in the world of politics and the world of liberty. So I definitely recommend this conference. I couldn't recommend it enough. And you should definitely book out your calendar for August 10th to the 12th because you're going to be in Orlando, Florida.
I can definitely attest to everything you just said. I'm definitely booked for August 10th. I probably still wouldn't be pursuing interest in politics, and I probably wouldn't be much of an activist had it not been for the Revolution that I went to first. I met all my friends there, and it's just not in politics and liberty; it's in life in general. Real friends, that call me, when it doesn't have anything to do with work. A lot of the friends I've met in my life, I met at Rev, and I went straight from Rev 2022 to New Hampshire. I didn't even go home. So it was great. It was a great time. Rev definitely, it changed my life a little bit. I got to admit it did.
Well, I could definitely speak on that as far as YAL changing your life. That's for sure. But I mean, yeah, revolution is truly something out. It's something you don't want to miss. And if you fit into the category of what I described earlier, then you should definitely totally fill out the application and get yourself applied.
Sure.
Maybe
Yeah. What's the process of signing up? I'll throw a referral out there for yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, if you be so inclined, right? You've been listening to me for the past 20 minutes so far, right? But really, the process is super simple. As far as applying yourself and getting your name and showing your interest that you want to come to this convention, is just as simple as visiting yowliberty.org/revolution and filling out that application. And really, like, you submit yourself, and then we don't actually start confirming people to come down to Orlando for another month or so. But by then, you already have your name on the list. We'll give you a call and be like, hey, are you willing to come down to Orlando? And since you already applied, you don't have to worry about seats being sold out because you already applied. You don't have to worry about everyone else who may apply last minute and may not be able to get in, because I know, at least for Rev 22, seats sold out pretty fast, because this is an event that you don't want to miss. And yeah, I could not say that enough.
Yeah, and I would also recommend anybody that hasn't signed up for Yale so far. I'm a Yale member. When you sign up, it's $10 for a year. You get a free T-shirt. They give you all types of cool stuff. They give you invites to events. You get discounts on a lot of things. And just to touch on Revolution, about something maybe you haven't mentioned, is the beautiful weather. There's beautiful women everywhere. There's water park, and the food is excellent. They give you breakfast, lunch, and dinner when you go there. You're staying at the Palms or something. It's an excellent resort.
Absolutely. Probably one of the nicest that I've personally been to be honest.
Yeah, that's the nicest one I've ever been to, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So YAL definitely covers you. I mean, we do cover food throughout the entire thing. And as far as if you're concerned about flight prices, we cover up to 50% of your flight costs to cut down there up to $200. So that's a little bit more enticing. There's definitely some discounts to be had if you are an official member, like you were saying before. We definitely try and give back to the people who support us. And yeah, I mean, we want to see you down there. So let's get you down there.
For sure.
Yeah. So adding on to that, like, does Revolution provide like a platform for young libertarians and hopefully Republicans in general to like collaborate and have like a similar venue to talk to and maybe collaborate for the future?
Absolutely. And I mean, this is just this convention is to bring everybody together in the name of the Ron Paul Revolution. I mean, that's where the convention got the namesake. So if you're in the fight for liberty, come on down. I can't say it enough.
So, have you ever been on any campaigns personally?
Campaigns, I actually have. I only one so far, but hopefully broaden my horizon in the years to come. But in the past, I've worked with Tom Queter, who ran for first New York State Senate and then had a bid for U.S. Senate on the New York ticket with Larry Sharp and a couple of other names. So that was definitely an experience. I ran his social media pages for a while, and that was my position in the campaign. But me and Tom are good friends. I've done some work for him since then, and it's just it's a good time.
I actually met him. Yeah, I actually met him 2 years ago at Rev, and I love Larry Sharp.
What was the result, just if you don't mind me asking, of the campaign?
Well, I mean, the two bids for either Senate weren't successful, but at the moment, Tom is running for town supervisor for his town. So he's kind of doing it in the reverse. You think that you would run for town supervisor first and then move on to these higher offices. This is the kind of reverse situation, but we're working towards that, and I'm waiting on him to give me some further details about when political calendars come out, because you'll definitely catch me with some photos door knocking for him in the months to come.
Very cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what were some of the worst moments during campaign? Because me and Jonathan have campaigned so much, so we always have good and bad moments. So what were some of the, I say, bad moments for you and that campaign, apart from you guys not winning it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the bad moment. I mean, there really weren't much to speak of. I feel like the whole thing was a just definitely a life experience, and I'm glad that I was able to get involved in a campaign, because just to meet more people that, especially because doing this YAL stuff, I meet a lot of liberty-minded people, but not many of them are local to me and people I could just hang out with on a day-to-day basis. So doing the campaign stuff for local New York was important to be able to meet some people in my local counties and that sort of thing. A low point was kind of just the battle of trying to get voters to swing their way and get them to vote libertarian instead of the two-party duopoly. Uh, so that's really just the biggest struggle, but that's really with any liberty-minded campaign is that sort of thing, especially if you're not running as a Republican or Democrat. But yeah, besides that,
It's not even two party in New York. It's like one party in New York, to be honest.
yeah, you could say that again.
So what were some of the good moments that you had during the campaign that you still remember and maybe learn from in the future?
Well, I feel like I guess good moments were just doing door knocking and being able to go to rallies and like get our name out there and be like, hey, you should totally sign our petition to vote for Tom. Well, I mean, I'll talk about that because that's just as I was talking to myself out loud. A big hurdle for us was the whole petitioning process, which we weren't even successful in because we could thank Governor Cuomo for tripling the petition requirements for third-party candidates in the midst of the COVID lockdowns from 15,000 signatures to 45,000 signatures. So that's something else. That was definitely the big hurdle. I didn't even think about it because it has been quite a bit of time since I was on the ground with them. But yeah, I mean,
So yeah, just a follow-up question. Do you ever see New York being a golden state, or I should say yellow? No, golden would be the right word.
I honestly, I highly doubt it. At the rate that we're going, I mean, maybe the thing with New York is that, especially in the midst of the Cuomo situation and Hochul now coming to power, and people leaving New York at such a rapid rate that we've never seen before, there are chances that things could go a different way, but for the most part, it's mostly Republican voters and that small demographic that we have already of possibly being liberty-minded that are fleeing the state because they see it that there is no hope left for the state, especially after Zeldin lost the election, even though it was so close. And there were a couple of us and many of my friends who were plenty hopeful. But after that, I really don't know if there will be another possibility for New York to be anything but blue, which is kind of a shame, but whatever it is, it is.
Okay.
Um,
I suppose
so
I have
Ozzy-
questions.
yeah.
Do you have something else for him? Or?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, so if you were to watch this podcast in about 30 years and look back on your career in politics, what would you wish that you would have accomplished? What do you want to accomplish in about 30 years in this game? What do you want to do?
Man, to be completely honest with you, I have no idea. I have because just now I'm like, as of recent, I'm like considering whether or not I'd ever want to be a political candidate, something I'd never considered before in the past because I figured politics is just a crook's game and I don't want to be a part of that. So I'd always turn down any opportunity, like not any opportunity, but anybody saying like, oh, you should run for Senate or you should be the next president, whatever it is, like almost in a joking manner. So in 30 years, I don't know when I'm going to decide like where I'm going to be, whether or not I'm going to be, 25 years into my teaching career or if I'm going to be in Washington. Like I have faith in myself to guide me along the right path so that in 30 years time, I'm going to be happy with the decisions I made. But right now I'm kind of just riding the wave where it takes me and, wherever the wind blows is where I'll go pretty much. As long as it's in the name of liberty, I think I'll be all right with whatever the outcome is.
Definitely got a great.
So if you had the chance to run tomorrow for office, what is going to be your platform? And as you answer this question, I'll add Huxley to the conversation. Huxley is also a co-host. Hi, actually.
Hey yo,
You're live.
hey yo, what's up?
While you answer that question, let
Sorry,
him answer the question
sorry.
first.
So what was the question? What was the question? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Um, no, so I'm asking him if he had the opportunity to run tomorrow for office, what would be his platform, or like what would be that one issue that he runs for?
So I feel like, I mean, I don't think I could come up with a political platform on the spot, but um, really just whenever someone asks me what my top political issues are, it's always, um, well, if it's taking away from people's freedoms, then that's something I want to fight against. And that's something I've said for many years. And I don't prioritize one thing or the other because I feel like freedom is freedom. Um, but especially in New York City, I feel like with the NYPD and getting into very controversial territory, but police brutality is something that I care about a lot and something that I definitely strive to see what I can do about that. Of course, I'm not based in the city, so I could never run for mayor, but just that's something that I would stand against and be with. And I know that the New York City Liberties Union definitely does their work against that sort of thing. Um, but I mean, yeah, I feel like all around I'd be pro freedom and try and work in the interest and have the best at heart for the people, whoever my constituents would be, whatever office I decide to run for, to make sure that they at the end of the day that they thrive and they could live with the least amount of government interference that I could put on them as possible.
Yeah, we got to include also. What do you think about uh, freedom of religion? What is your take on that, on
Well,
religion?
I mean, freedom of religion, like anything else, the First Amendment is first for a reason. Like, as long as you are not forcing anything on anyone, then I don't care what you do in your personal life. You know, the church and state should be separate, of course, and
Yep.
no
Oh my
business.
goodness. Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like just saying that one line pretty much sums up my position. And I feel like if you're a
Awesome.
libertarian and you don't believe that the church should be separate from the state, you're probably not a libertarian. But I don't know.
You
I
know
don't want
what?
to, burn any
Sorry.
bridges.
Yeah, no, sorry, can I add to that real quick? So as far as so people that know me, right, and I'm very big on church and state, right? So I'm a Christian myself, right? I'm a Christian myself, and I'm very big on church, the separation of church and state, because it um once church, if some conservatives, a lot of conservatives out there that are like are wanting to join, have church, sorry, the church control the state or whatever, right? And that could be a problem because now the church becomes I'm sorry, the state, if the state has a bias towards a religion, a type of religion, there's no freedom for the other ones, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's something that we should be. I myself advocate very much for separation of church and state because that enables freedom for everyone, and I'm known for that as well. So yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like, you know what? I feel like this whole time I've kind of tried to prove myself as the guy who always take a stand for freedom and the First Amendment and freedom of religion and freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to petition is all a part of that and all very important. So absolutely.
Yep. Awesome.
You live in a state with very strict gun laws and very strict drug laws. Even though they have not that affects actual drug use or gun crime. Actually, it seems to have the opposite effect. So, what's your stance on drug laws in particular? Do you think what do you think about what do you think about sending people to jail for drugs? What do you think about that?
Well, Jonathan, I'm going to give you 4 words. End the
Okay.
drug war. Those are my 4 words. And I think it could pretty much sum up my position like that. Especially for cannabis, people shouldn't be going to jail for smoking or ingesting a drug that literally can only not that it can only help you, but it has the medical properties to help someone, and you also just can't die from it. It is impossible. right?
Or-
So especially for cannabis, it's something that definitely is worth fighting for. But ending the drug war and getting people out of jail for crimes that aren't even crimes because they are victimless crimes is something that also I'm very passionate about. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the cannabis point is kind of like a layup, kind of like digger deep off into that. So I mean, fentanyl has some medical properties. Would you outlaw fentanyl, or would you decide to just let it run its course?
So I almost feel like this, and I think of the this when Ron Paul was on stage in 2008 on the Fox News, the Republican presidential nomination, when he asked a question about whether or not he would outlaw heroin. I think that was the drug of choice for that conversation. I don't think that many Americans or many people in this country would suddenly take up heroin tomorrow because it was suddenly legal. I feel like I have a faith in people enough to think that people will do right for themselves. And I mean, hey, if you want to dive into that sort of thing, then all the power to you. I feel like if it's going to affect your family and if it's going to affect people other than yourself, you need to realize that as an individual, that everything that you do has a consequence. It's just not necessarily up to the government to make those consequences for you and say, well, you do this, you'll go to prison. I feel like there's plenty of consequences enough in deciding to take some of these more extreme drugs like fentanyl and heroin, especially at the risk of death and that sort of thing. So,
And you know, that interview of Ron Paul that you're talking about is the reason I'm a libertarian today. Like, that was, I remember watching it live, and that just changed my life.
Hey, Alex. So,
But
sorry. Another question. So are you Christian, or what, do you have a belief, or do you know?
So I personally, I say I'm a Christian. For a while, I identified as agnostic because with coming to libertarianism, it just made me question everything. And by everything, I mean everything. And of course, at the time, like I was raised Methodist. And so I never had this belief that like, I never believed in the Pope or anything like that. But with my own personal family situation and relationship with the church, I kind of drifted myself away from that. I feel like whatever between you and whatever creator you believe in. But I feel like I'm definitely a Christian, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's rather important to, for people that are getting to know you and stuff like that, where your stance, like obviously you covered all these points. And, also people are interested in knowing like what you align yourself religiously, if you, but you just, kind of describe that, which is good. And I feel like, people want to know this kind of things. So yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah, no, of course. Religion and faith is a very important part of people's lives. And I'd like to think of myself as whenever someone asks me if I am a religious person, I always come back with, I don't think I'm religious, but I'm a spiritual person. And I believe that, the universe, what you put into the universe is what you'll get out of it. And if you are a good person at heart, that the universe will reward you. I've seen that plenty of times in my own life. Of course, personal anecdotes aren't exactly a test to prove any sort of faith or whatever it is. It's just kind of what I feel in my own heart. But like I said before, like you're free to believe whatever you want to believe, as long as you aren't hurting anybody else in the process. So yeah.
Right.
And I feel with that, we should conclude this. Thank you so much, Alec, for coming today. And if you run tomorrow for office, I'll definitely.
Well, I appreciate that, Sophie. I appreciate that.
Sounds good.
Have a nice day, guys.